What's going on, everybody? Jay here with the No Spoon Podcast. I know it's been a while since I've done an episode of the No Spoon Podcast, but I feel like it's time to just at least every once in a while put some stuff out here, talk about politics, talk about what's going on, especially as we're coming up on election season and things are about to get crazy. I'm not endorsing any particular political side. Obviously, it's kind of known that I do lean the conservative side. I do lean on the right. I don't label myself a Republican. I don't label myself a Trump supporter, but I do believe in those values of freedom, um, independence, self sufficiency, things like that. I've been talking a lot about educating people on uh, health and fitness and leveling up in those ways, which is I think is very much important. As you see, I have on a First Form shirt. First Form is probably the best in products as far as supplementation and your fitness journey. That everything that you need is there. But right now, I'm going to talk about what's going on in the world, and especially when we're like a week away or a week from the assassination attempt on President Trump at one of his rallies. Now, I am going to talk about the assassination attempt and how crazy and improbable that was, and how it doesn't make any sense to any logical thinking person. So I will get to that, but really, I want to just kind of go back from the very beginning and talk about things that I was talking about 4 years ago when COVID started, and I started even speaking out on anything. So I want to kind of go back from the beginning because I think it's very important that we talk about why all this is happening. Back then, when Trump decided to run in 2015 and he ran in 2016, um, it was like, first of all, nobody took it seriously. And then, like, he felt the scorn of the mainstream media, the whole mainstream establishment, from Hollywood to the politicians to everything that you saw, everything that was mainstream was against Trump, right? And obviously they called him racist, sexist, misogynist, xenophobic, homophobic, all this type of stuff. Like, he's gotten the ultimate bigotry card placed on his head as far as from the whole establishment, right? And that came, he was running against Hillary and all that type of stuff, and so they used so many different things against him. I think like where we're at, and that kind of continued all throughout his presidency, the two impeachments, um, COVID, all those things, and now the indictments and stuff that are going on with him, or have been going on against him, the 34 felony counts that he was found guilty of. Like, it becomes obvious that there is a concerted effort to get rid of him. And it kind of culminated this past weekend with an effort to literally get rid of him. Now, why has he been such a problem? And then not only that, but I want to talk about why, because that's important. Then I want to talk about what I feel about him, my stance on that, some of the things that I seen from him that I'm not too happy about, and I'm still not too happy about. But let's start from the very beginning, right? So, what we have to understand is that in the world there are two contradicting movements that are going on, right? There's a movement to move us into a uh, globalist, one world kind of a government, I guess you can say, but it's a globalist system. It's a one world system. It's spearheaded by um, a lot of these globalist institutions like United Nations, WHO, NATO, these type of alignments, as well as even within the United States, like in some of these other countries, they have this alignment to kind of bring everything all up under one system, one government, and uh, other contradictory forces, the ones that say no, we don't want to be up under one, we want to have nationalism, right? That means nations have independent sovereignty. So those are the two movements that are going on in the world now. You would ask yourself, like, why? Right? Well, why is very simple. The economic systems that we find ourselves in, right? especially here in the United States, has been on a timer for a long time, right? There's been a ticking uh, time bomb, so to speak, on these economic systems. First of all, once we went off the gold standard, once we started printing money, and once we started basically living off of fake currency, which is what we've been doing, then we've had an inflation, and not inflation in the sense of money becoming worthless, although that is part of it, but inflation in sense of inflated sense of wealth. So a lot of the people that you see that are wealthy, and a lot of the wealth that's being created, is not real wealth because it's not backed by anything real, right? That's what a dollar is and money currency period is only as valuable as what it's backed by, because all it is a representation of something else. The dollar used to be backed by gold. So when the dollar was backed by gold, it was a representation of the gold that you had, right? But now it's not backed by gold, it's nothing. It's really just based on a point on a computer screen, right? So what has kept us afloat, the United States, is OPEC and the petrodollar, and the fact that we made a deal with Saudi Arabia, and um, that oil would only be sold for dollars. Now that gave us a tremendous amount of leverage in the world, because everybody then had to convert their currency into dollars if they wanted to get fuel in order to keep their country running. So we became the gatekeepers of everything when that started to happen. But eventually that runs out. Eventually, when the dollar becomes so inflated, it becomes worth nothing. And so what has been happening is, because the world would eventually have to go to this, where this economic system would collapse, then the people at the top, the elite of the elite, right? The elites have to find a way how they're going to keep their wealth. Well, the way they're going to keep their wealth is to convince us to share our wealth. So this is where the socialism and communism and all those type of Marxism, those ideologies, which is really all the same thing, where they come into play. And this is where they play on the narratives of racism, they play on the narratives of sexism, they play on the narratives of singling out what they call marginalized groups, and say that they are fighting for the oppressed. And because they're fighting for the oppressed, they're fighting to give the oppressed pieces of the wealth, which is really just us sharing our own wealth, right? That's all that they're telling us to do. And so the elites, and I'm not talking about just your regular millionaire or rich person, I'm talking about the elites of the elites. Now, when I talk about the elites, listen, here's the thing: get money out of the equation, right? Because right now it's a position, it's a battle for position. It's a battle for influence. That's what's more valuable than anything right now. There are people that don't make millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they're a lot more powerful than people that do, because of the position that they play. So right now it's about position, and that's what's been going on, is they've been positioning themselves all throughout the world to make these moves and to gain ultimate control and ultimate lockdown. So when President Trump came into the picture, he was outside of the establishment. He was not part of what they had going on. And this is why he made the Make America Great Again campaign, because he wanted to get America away from selling us out to this globalist ideology. There were so many things that he talked about, some of these trade agreements, some of these, NATO and all these different things, where we were giving billions and billions of dollars a year, because people were pretty much, what these globalist agendas were doing, were taking as much wealth as they can from the United States and putting it into this globalist agenda, right? So we were paying billions and billions of dollars where nobody else was. We were funneling money to these countries that were really not giving us anything in return, a la Ukraine, right? So when he came into the picture, he kind of threw a wrench in the whole scheme of things, right? Because this was supposed to go one way. And if you look at, there's been globalists all the way from George Bush Sr. to Clinton to George Bush Jr. to Obama, and then it was supposed to go to Hillary. But Trump kind of messed all that up. He threw a wrench in everything. So they had to find a way to get rid of him, right? And so that's what they've been doing this whole time. They've been trying to find a way to get rid of him, because he does put a twist on this whole globalist agenda, because he's not for that. It's the same thing with Putin. This is why they don't like Putin. Is Putin a dictator? Is Putin a war criminal? I really can't tell you because that's what the mainstream media says. The mainstream media said that President Trump was just like Hitler. So they're going to spin it the way because they're part of that agenda. The elites run the media. The elites run the higher education institutions that the media come from. The elites run the agencies, the CIA, the FBI, all those type of things. The elites have all those. So they're going to be ran by them. So they are part of the agenda. So the media, that's why the media went in on Trump. You never heard anybody say that Trump was racist until he ran for president. That's so old and everybody's been saying it, but I think the world is waking up to that. Like, we've kind of debunked all those different things. So they have really been turning on this whole agenda. That's what President Trump did. He turned on the whole agenda, and he made it to where it was very difficult. Now, this is where COVID came into play, and this is when I started to speak on things because I saw COVID for what it was. COVID was nothing more than a play to kind of, first of all, get rid of him, and second of all, bring more complete and total lockdown and control on the government. So we saw the forced vaccinations, we saw the forced lockdowns, we saw the things that changed all of society, yet none of us could really see what it was. And that's what I was saying before is the crazy thing about the whole pandemic was that if we saw the World Trade Center, right? We saw that. That's something that everybody's seen, and we can get into conspiracy theories behind it or whatnot, but we saw the World Trade Center. Nobody could see COVID. We just were told that people were dying. We just were told that this was going on. And I'm not saying that didn't happen, but I'm saying is that we can pretty much make a pandemic of anything every year, but we don't. But they conveniently made a pandemic out of this, and they conveniently set in all these different policies and all these different reactions to this pandemic that would have long-lasting effect because they know now that they can do it whenever they want to. That's the whole point of this. They want to be able to lock us down whenever they want to. They want to be able to take complete and total control. If they're going to be able to keep their wealth, they have to get us to agree to give them complete power and control over us. And these type of things, pandemics, oppression, racism, sexism, those are exactly the kind of narratives that they use to get us to give up more power because they have the answers, right? And what they want to do is move to the digital IDs. They want to move to the what they called that, oh man, I can't, it's off the tip of my tongue right now, the social credit scores, right? The social credit scores, where if you post something they don't like, if you say something they don't like. Remember, we went through the whole misinformation campaign where you couldn't say certain things on Twitter, you couldn't say things on social media, you couldn't speak out against the mask, you couldn't speak out against the vax, you couldn't speak out against the election, you couldn't speak out against certain things or they deplatformed you. And what they want to do is move it all to a social credit system to where they start to affect your bank account as well. They start to affect your own a way of surviving, getting jobs, and so on and so forth. So that's what they've been up to, and that was the whole point of COVID. That's why they went at President Trump the way that they went at him, because he kind of stood in the way. Now, let me get to my thoughts about him, right? Personally. Now, I voted for the first time in my life. I voted in 2020. I voted for Trump, right? Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to vote for him in 2024 because I still think that he's a lot better than Joe Biden. But personally, and I was saying this before the election in 2020, I said, well, what if Trump flips on us? What if Trump buys into that agenda? What if he decides to play their game? The thing about it is that if he decided to do that, we would never know, because it wasn't like he was going to come and make an announcement and say, hey, guess what, guys? I play for the other team now. It's not going to happen. That would be stupid. For one, the people would turn on him. He would lose all the support, and that wouldn't get us that wouldn't get those people in line like he's able to put people in line. So that would never happen, for one, right? So let's throw that out the window. We'd have to be smarter now to look for signs to say, what makes us see that he did flip. And personally, I think that after the election, which I believe 1,000%, you can't trust the results of that, right? I'll just say it like that. You can't trust the results of that last election. I think he knew some things. I think that there was evidence that he knew about, But when the January 6th thing happened, which I think was a setup, I think that they wanted January 6th to happen so they can do exactly what they did. And I think that what they did after January 6th is that they went at Trump and said, check this out. If you don't stop talking about this election thing, if you don't stop talking about what happened, we're going to come after you. We're going to come after everybody. Now, have they been coming after him? Yeah. But I think they really could have came after him, especially on the insurrection, those type of things, that they really could have made a case for that, and they haven't. So do I think Trump is playing ball with them? I think to a certain extent. I think he brought out the vaccine, which was a big part of their plan, and he did what he was supposed to do. Do I think that he's playing on the other side completely now? No, I think he goes off script a lot of times. I think that he kind of does things that they don't like. I think that they would rather get him out of there and have somebody like Biden who they can control. I don't think Trump is going to play ball the way they want him to play ball, right? I think that they would rather have somebody that's in the establishment that they can trust. I think that, when it came time, Trump didn't do a lot of things that he said he was going to do. Do I think that he's really going to drain the swamp? Do I think that he's really going to deport a lot of these illegal immigrants and close the borders and bring back manufacturing and all that? I don't know. I really don't. I can't say. I think that he's had a taste of Washington, and he saw what Washington really is, and he saw the swamp that it really is, and he saw how deep the swamp went, right? These bureaucrats have been in there for 30, 40, 50 years, and how powerful that they are, that they're more powerful than the elected officials. So I think that Trump kind of knows where he can go and where he can't go. This assassination attempt, let's get to that real quick. I think that it was a sham, right? I don't think that when they say it's an inside job, I think that they did a very, very sloppy performance. I think that it was one of those things where, hey, it could have if he missed, he missed. If he didn't, he didn't. I think that they kind of dropped the ball. We have so many contradicting things. Like, you have a kid that's 20 years old that has no social media presence, but he was so radical enough to attempt an assassination attempt on a former president and presidential candidate, but he never posted about it, never talked about it. The last thing he did was register Republican. It just smells like doesn't make sense. The fact that there was a ladder right there, the fact that they said that there was Secret Service agents inside the building, the fact that they said that they couldn't put a man on that building because there was too much of a slope, yet in the other pictures we see greater slopes and had snipers on there. I mean, none of it makes sense. But neither did the JFK thing, neither did a lot of the assassinations that we see happening do they make sense. And they're always these lone gunmen, these lone weirdos that we really can't connect them to anything. It just seems like some MK Ultra. Somebody was brainwashed to do something and they did it, and they thought maybe he'd get lucky enough to take him out. And if not, who cares? It gave them a reason to get rid of Biden. I think Biden has become too, incoherent to where he can't even. It's not even going to look good. Honestly, though, at the end of the day, I think they have to put somebody in there that's going to at least make it look legit. Because if you really want my opinion on what's going to happen in November, I think we're going to have the same results as we had last time. Because they have an agenda. They wanted to get rid of Trump. They're not going to keep Trump in. They're not going to let him do it. I think that we have become so far polarized in this nation as far as in our politics that there is no turning back. And I'm not trying to be black-pilled here or, the pessimist. I'm just saying that you're asking us, like, after this whole thing happened, right, the whole assassination attempt, and they're like, we need unity. Unity with what? Unity with who, right? Unity with people that believe in gender dysmorphia being something that's actually legit and viable, right? Unity with people that believe in abortion, unity with people that believe in allowing children to have puberty blockers or letting kids be read stories by drag queens and transgenders and reading sexualized books. Unity with people that fundamentally believe everything different, like both sides. If you really look at all these different things, right, you look at what's going on, if you the mass hysteria was Project 2025, and that's what we're going to implement. If you looked at Project 2025, it's really just like this. It's a playbook for getting the government out of your life. They just use different words. When the left describes it, they say, oh, they want to divert funds from public schools and into religious institutions. Well, what you're talking about is school choice. And that's where the parents get to take the money that is allocated for their kids to get educated and put it to the school that they want them to go to, instead of having to go to the school in their district. So if a parent does say, hey, I want to send my kid to a Christian school, then yeah, technically funds are being diverted away from a public school, because those funds would have went to a public school if your kid went there, and given to a Christian school. It's not a fundamental thing. It's just the parents have the choice. Those are the type of mind games and the word games that they play, right? Why shouldn't the parents have a choice? Why shouldn't the people have a choice? When they say that, oh, they want to make it to where you can't get paid overtime and workers can work 140 hours a week. Now, what they're saying is that there's no government is going to come in and regulate how a business runs it. If a business doesn't want to give their workers overtime, they don't have to do that. It's their choice. It's their private institution. Now, if the company down the street is offering overtime pay, who do you think is going to get more employees? This is how you let the market figure things out, right? This is how you let the market determine what the wages are going to be, what the cost of something or the value of something is going to be. Instead, when we have government intervene and put regulations on things and taxes on things, and having to hire HR departments full of DEI experts that get paid $100,000 a year, then guess what happens to your goods and services? The price skyrockets. What that's trying to do is just get rid of that. See, one side believes that the government has to regulate everything. The government has to take care of us, feed, clothe, shelter us, give us our food, give us our medicine, give us our health care, completely take care of us like we're children. And the other side believes we don't want none of that. We'll take care of our own. So how do I have unity with people like that? How do I have unity with people that want to take the money that I make from my job and then give it to somebody that's smoking crack so that they can live in $600,000 luxury apartments like they did here in LA? How do you unify with people like that? You can't. So I think this talk of unity, let's unite, let's all get together, it's all some feel-good stuff that is going to get you to want to vote for a particular candidate, but at the end of the day, it is trash. You can't unite with those people. I'm sorry. I know that that's not the feel-good message that you want to hear. I know that a lot of people are going to feel some type of way about it and say, no, you should be speaking more positively. But at the end of the day, these people have an agenda, and this agenda is globalist. This agenda is authoritarian. Excuse me. This agenda is authoritarian. This agenda is a complete and total control of the government to take over every facet of your life. It is the state that is coming in and intervening into everything, telling you what to do, when to do, and how to do it. I'm not uniting with those people. We cannot unite with those people. That's just facts. There is no, let's come to a meeting, let's come and compromise. Compromise with what? Right? You want to chop off kids, genitals and think that it's okay? I'm not compromising with you. I'm not compromising with people that want me to accept the fact that a man is a woman and a woman is a man because that's how they feel, and the subjective feelings are somehow more important and more valuable than objective reality. You can't unite with those people. You have a better chance uniting with the schizophrenic on the street, because that's technically what they are, schizophrenic. They have no idea what it is that they're talking about because nothing is based in logic and reason. So that's what this is all about, right? That's what everything that you see that's going on. These people don't think logically. They don't think in reality. They make up a bunch of things based on what college professors tell them to say, because those college professors are subservient to the agenda that I'm speaking of, and they have an agenda to go and put forth this rhetoric that's really based on nothing sound, nothing logical, and they force feed it to you. Really, man, it's time to really wake up and see what's going on. I don't have trust in any of these politicians. I don't have trust in any of these political parties. What I do trust in is us, the people, The individuals that are going to get up every single day and get 1% better, and then come to and those are the people that are going to unite, and those are the people that are going to put forth an effort to make this country a better place. That's the people that I deal with. That's the people that I want. That's the people that I know that are going to stand tall in the face of adversity, because there's going to be a lot of adversity coming. I'm telling you that right now. There's going to be a lot of adversity coming. So we need people that are prepared to stand up to this, that are not relying on politicians and not relying on policy, but relying on self-sufficiency and independent governance. That's what we need. So that's just the gist of it. I wanted to just put this out there. Share this video with as many people as possible. Subscribe to my channel. I'll put more stuff out there, especially as we get into this election season. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. My name is Shay. This is No Spoon Podcast.